The Incredibles have a universe much bigger than it seems at first glance. Seriously, there were several superheroes who protected the world before vigilantes were banned. Everseer. And one of them was Everseer, a super with telepathic powers. He was able to read minds, communicate through thoughts, and also had incredible eyes that could see with both telescopic and microscopic vision. As if that weren't enough, he was clairvoyant, managing to discover things before they even happened. According to the data from the NSA, the National Supers Agency, he had the highest intelligence level among all the vigilantes. That's probably why he became the leader of a team called the Phantasmic. Despite being a very skilled superhero, he had the strange weakness of not being able to properly use his telepathic powers on animals, especially squirrels. He had no destructive abilities and was only as durable as a regular human, which meant he could be completely broken if struck by another super's attack. Just like many characters on this list, he was eliminated by one of Syndrome's Omnidroids. It's clear that Everseer was the weakest super, but he's our starting point to get to know the other incredible heroes in this universe, beginning with the weakest ones until we reach the most powerful superhero of all time. So get comfortable and buckle up. Another Cinewave is starting. Stormside. Stormside is an example of how even the less prominent characters from The Incredibles are really well done. She had the power to absorb gases and use them whenever she wanted, like absorbing oxygen to put out flames. This power was pretty versatile, since Stormside could absorb and release poisonous gases, laughing gas, acid gas, etc. She could even use helium to fly. The problem was that Stormside couldn't actually create gases, she could only absorb them and then release them later, which made her arsenal less powerful. If she could create gases and use them without limits, she'd definitely be much higher up the list. Stratogale. Stratogale was a girl known for her ability to fly at high speed and communicate with birds. To top it off, she also had superhuman strength. Stratogale clearly had a lot of potential and could have been much higher in this ranking, but since she was only a teenager, we imagine she lacked the experience to use her powers at their full potential. She never had the chance to grow up and become more experienced because she ended up being sucked into a jet turbine thanks to her cape. A really tragic way to go. As Edna Mode says, right? No capes. Slashdown. Slashdown was another one who suffered a terrible fate caused by a cursed cape. He had aquatic powers, being able to swim at high speeds, fly through water jets, communicate with fish, and manipulate water. His strength and resistance were also superhuman, making him kind of like Aquaman. But none of that stopped him from being sucked into a whirlpool. The curious part is that his body was never found. Some theorize that Slashdown spent all these years in the ocean searching for the lost city of Atlantis, since he was obsessed with finding it. Valange. Valange, who was eliminated by the second version of the Omnidroid, had the power to create sonic blasts with his own voice, basically making him a singing superhero. This guy seemed to have personality issues, being considered selfish and leaving the Thrilling 3 team after fighting with Gazerbeam, the group's leader. He could have been further up this list if it weren't for his susceptibility to laryngitis, which left him voiceless and made his main power useless. Gazerbeam. Speaking of Gazerbeam, he's the next one on this list. He had the power to fire energy blasts from his eyes, which were controlled through his helmet. Yes, Gazerbeam was basically this universe's Cyclops. Gazerbeam was very powerful, able to cut a van in half with his laser in a deleted scene. On top of that, he was really smart, since he managed to uncover Syndrome's plan before being taken out. He had assumed leadership of the Thrilling 3 after Dynaguy's death. Before that, he was a member of the Phantasmics. Here's another one who could have been closer to the top of the list. The problem was that Gazerbeam just couldn't properly control his powers. Plasma Bolt. Plasma Bolt's main power also involved firing rays, but hers were plasma blasts. She did this by capturing electromagnetic waves with her antennas, which were then converted into plasma and fired through her hands. Plasma Bolt could also fly, and her look had an insect theme. She was so obsessed with outdoor activities that she even worked as a forest ranger in her civilian identity. Oh, and she was also a member of the Phantasmics. Psych Wave. And then there's Psych Wave, who had telepathic powers similar to Everseer's. In her case, her abilities were focused on the capacity to control other people's minds and levitate objects with her thoughts. The problem was that Psych Wave wasn't exactly heroic and used her powers for selfish reasons, manipulating the minds of her friends' boyfriends so they would break up with the girls and go out with her instead. Psych Wave didn't think she was doing anything wrong, because technically, she wasn't physically hurting anyone. But let's be real, stripping people of the ability to make their own decisions is definitely something only a supervillain would do. If you're enjoying learning about these heroes, drop a comment below with #heroes. Violet. Now it's finally time to talk about someone from the Parr family, Violet. As part of the new generation of superheroes, she has the power to turn invisible and create force fields. Even though she's just a teenager, this heroine is already stronger than many veterans for several reasons. Her force fields are incredibly durable, able to withstand multiple attacks from the Omni-droids, but Violet's main advantage is her cleverness and quick thinking, always finding new creative ways to use her barriers. Dash. Of course, sooner or later we'd have to talk about the Incredibles version of the Flash. Dash. The boy is only 10 years old, but just like Violet, he's already stronger than many adult superheroes thanks to his super speed. What he lacks is experience, but that's only a matter of time. Dash is fast enough that the human eye can't see him, as shown when his classmates don't notice his movements in the first movie. Besides super speed, he's also very agile, has superhuman reflexes, and is both stronger and tougher than an ordinary kid. Elastigirl. Right ahead of the kids, we have Elastigirl, the Parr family matriarch. You probably know very well that her power is elasticity, which allows her to stretch far and take on all sorts of different shapes. Her strengths are her elastic resilience and, just like Violet, her cleverness. Elastigirl's power isn't the most dangerous on its own, but she's so creative in how she uses it that she can pretty much pull off almost anything. Most likely, she could figure out a way to defeat several superheroes who are ranked above her on this list. Macro Burst. Macro Burst was Everseer's sidekick and was also a part of the Phantasmics. He had the ability to control wind, creating gusts so powerful they could slice through practically anything. But Macro Burst also had a weakness: claustrophobia, the fear of tight spaces. He was the one who defeated the first version of the Omni-droid, only to be taken down by the second version. Interestingly, his gender is a mystery. No one really knows if he was actually a man or a woman. Hypershock. Meanwhile, Hypershock was able to use seismic waves to cause earthquakes, making him one of the most destructive characters in the franchise. Hypershock could also fly using rocket boosters, though that was a bit dangerous considering he had issues with drinking. Blaze Stone. Blaze Stone was a former criminal and had a temper problem, which fit perfectly with her power to control fire. She could unleash powerful streams of flames and fly. Fun fact, she even dated Frozone. And he's not just one of the most charismatic characters in the franchise, but also one of the most powerful, able to create massive amounts of ice. Frozone is a combat genius, thinking on his feet to react to any situation while skating across his ice. The only thing keeping him from being invincible is his weakness to heat. Dynaguy. Another hero with an extremely dangerous power was Dynaguy, a hero with rockets built into his arms. His real ability was firing disintegration beams, which is just insane. Unfortunately, he's also one of those who met their end because of a cape. So, remember to never wear a cape, and of course to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our daily videos. Mr. Incredible. You've probably been waiting a long time for this. Finally, it's time to talk about Mr. Incredible, and it's no mystery why he ranks so high on this list. He doesn't just have super strength. He's so strong that the NSA actually calls his power Mega Strength, a level of physical power that no other hero of his era could match. Mr. Incredible is also super durable, being nearly invulnerable. And as if that weren't enough, he even has a danger sense similar to Spider-Man's. Downburst. Downburst proves that some supers could have been way more powerful if they had just broken through their own limitations. He had the ability to manipulate atoms, the very building blocks of everything. In theory, that meant he could manipulate anything. The problem was that he struggled to control it and perform complex feats. Over time, though, he managed to learn how to heal injuries and even create portals. Apogee. One of the few things as powerful as manipulating atoms is controlling gravity, which was exactly Apogee's ability. She could levitate herself and others, even crushing them with nothing but the power of her mind. And these abilities got even stronger at noon when the sun was at its peak. Gammajack. You might already know Gammajack, who has recently grown popular for being a snobby and dangerous superhero with a high risk of snapping and turning into a villain. If that had happened, it would have been a nightmare, because Gammajack had the power to manipulate radiation, unleashing radioactive blasts capable of causing anything from severe burns to someone's complete disintegration. That alone was insanely overpowered, but on top of that, he's also highly intelligent. Metaman. Metaman is the closest thing the Incredibles universe has to Superman. His powers included flight, super strength, super durability, teleportation, partial invisibility, a sonic scream, magnetic manipulation, X-ray vision, and even communication with aquatic mammals. Phew, that's a lot. He was supposed to be the greatest superhero of the past thanks to being able to do so many different things. That is, at least until he, ironically, lost his life in an accident caused by his cape. Yep, always the capes. Jack. The only one more versatile than him is Jack. Yes, the Parr's family little baby still in diapers is in fact the most useful super in the entire universe. He has so many powers that this video would go on for hours if we tried to cover them all. Teleportation, transformation, fire, laser vision, he's basically a mini god. Universal Man. Even so, neither of them is more powerful than Universal Man. He's a fascinating case because he could have destroyed every single hero and villain, but he couldn't use the full extent of his power. That's because he could manipulate his body's density, turning into gas or becoming far more resilient. But if he ever tapped into the full potential of his powers, he would have transformed into a black hole capable of destroying the entire planet, though Universal Man would have lost his life in the process. We've left some really fun videos up on your screen. Just pick the one that grabs your attention the most. Thanks for watching, and see you next time!